please.
Thank you so much.
Our pledge saying to our main contributor and to our main followers and television viewers of LNTV that they will like PLBC 99.9 FM. So my name is MICAT and I'm coming to like add financial information. So today is Tuesday. Today is MICAT. So today is MI regular press briefing. So MI will play host to Hon.Jerolinmek to Piah, Ministers of Information, Ambassador General Amb.Koakun, Presidential Special Envoy on Climate Changes, Chief Executive Officer of the Carbon Market Authority of Liberia, and Hon.Emmanuel. So, taking step as a break of focus, which of MI.
I want to stand on as an important protocol to call this press conference to order. And we want to, on behalf of the senior management team of the Ministry of Information, welcome all of you, members of the Hope Estate, the Liberian public, following via social media, PLBC, FM, and a host of other community radio stations across the country. We want to welcome you to the Child Rayon conference room here at the Ministry of Information for another edition of the government regular press briefing. Today we want to introduce the guest for the day. First we have Ambassador Envoy. She's the Presidential Special Envoy on Climate Change and Chief Executive Officer of the Carbon Market Liberia. Of course, you know, Ambassador Koakun used to be our former Minister of Agriculture. So we want to welcome Madam Koakun and her team to the Ministry of Information. We also have with us Honorable Emmanuel, the Deputy Director General for Technical Services at the Liberia Standard Authority. Why are they here? Ambassador Koakun will provide updates regarding the Carbon Market Authority. As you know, since the President set up that institution, a lot has been done, but things that have been done to elevate that entity has not been brought to the press. So she's here, she's here, and she'll be speaking to you on activities related to the Liberia Carbon Authority, and she will as well provide other updates on the workings of that entity. The Deputy Director for Technical Services of the Liberia Standard Authority, Mr. Miles, will address the press on the official commissioning ceremony of the Liberia Standard Authority Lab, which will be taking place tomorrow by His Excellency, on Thursday, by His Excellency President Joseph Emmanuel. So that's the rundown on our guest list. But before we take our guests, you know, it is customary that the minister will speak officially on behalf of the government on certain issues. And then after the minister concludes, Ambassador Koakun will mount the podium. She will speak to you. She will be followed by the Honorable Miles from the Liberia Standard Authority. When that is concluded, then we will entertain questions from the members of the folk estates that are here. With that being said, I have the distinguished honor to now invite Minister Jerolinmek, Piah, to the microphone.
Former Minister, welcome. The Ambassador, Director today.
So are you.
You like Ambassador, right? Where are you Ambassador that you want to
Special info.
Welcome to MICAT and the Charles William Press Hall, Mr. Deputy Director. Welcome also, and to you members of the press, good to see you here again in these halls. Charles William Press Hall. Charles, we ready good? Yeah, so good to have you here. We about to name another public institution in his honor. That's the new broadcast and television complex at LBS. So last night, many persons were concerned about something that took place at the substation of the Liberia Electricity Corporation in the Piah area. The entity has since issued a press statement that we thought we should elevate, since most of our people pay attention to what is said, and not necessarily what is written in newspapers or Facebook or whatever. So the release says the management of the Liberia Electricity Corporation informs the general public of an incident that occurred at the Piahville substation on February 16, 2026 at approximately 10 a.m. The substation experienced an arcing flame as a result of a transformer overload, which caused a burst of a cable shield and created an air gap within the system. Upon detection of the fault, LEC's technical team responded swiftly and immediately isolated the affected transformer to prevent further damage and ensure public safety. Calm has since been restored at the substation and full stabilization efforts are ongoing. Engineers and technicians will continue technical restoration works during today to ensure that the substation is fully stabilized and power supply to customers along the affected corridor is restored. Preliminary technical findings indicate that the Piahville substation has reached its saturation point, a condition that has been developing over the past 3 to 4 years due to increasing load demand. The Piahville substation currently supplies power to Shuffling, to Piahville, to Dupo Road, to Soul Clinic, to the Fender Corridor, and some parts of Gardnersville, which has experienced exponential growth in electricity consumption. Given the sustained and growing demand, LEC is working assiduously to upgrade the existing substation and to construct a new substation in Fender to isolate the Fender corridor, balance load distribution, and enhance system reliability and efficiency along that corridor. The LEC remains committed to strengthening the national grid infrastructure and ensuring safe, reliable, and sustainable electricity supply to all customers. We appreciate the public's understanding and cooperation as they continue to improve service delivery. Also, the LEC warns that some customers are being asked to pay for utility poles, transformers, service wires, or other materials doing new connections, reconnections, or customer service requests. The LEC states that these materials and services are provided free of charge within approved operational areas. No payment should be made to any employee for these services. Customers are advised not to give money to individuals claiming to represent LEC. If a payment request occurs, report it with LEC vehicle board number if applicable, full names of individual involved, photos or video if saved, date, time, location, and all relevant details. You can also report to the legal division at LEC headquarters down in Waterside, or call phone number 0773-213276. 0773-213276. The LEC emphasizes transparency, accountability, and eliminating fraud to ensure fair access to electricity services. Meanwhile, LEC is expanding its services across the city with the installation of additional streetlights in places like Cardwell, Puebla, the New Bridge to St. Paul Bridge to Groville, the Japanese Drive, Cinco, particularly the avenues. All major communities in and around Monserrado and Monrovia as a whole will be reached by these services. Along the RIA highway, which was lighted recently, with gaps remaining, poles are being planted currently as we speak, filling the gap, and for the whole of this week, the actual installation of the light will take place. For some part of the road, the basement has been installed, waiting to be dried, and the poles will eventually go out and the lights installed. The goal is to ensure that Monrovia, the capital of our country, is well brightened to ensure safety, help kids to study, and businesses to run for late hours. The government's raw aggression initiative on infrastructure development, particularly road, is in full swing. Road works are currently taking place on all fronts and will continue as long as the environmental circumstances will permit. And as you may all know, recently, the Piah concession was ratified by the National Legislature, thanks to that branch of government for their cooperation and farsightedness. Now, Piah International has since commenced mobilization work to kick off the construction work along the Western Corridor, which runs from St. Paul Bridge to Clay, to Tottenham, and the whole Waterside. Their operational site, which is located in Saston, is currently being developed. The government and Piah will set a date soon for groundbreaking ceremonies that will immediately see the beginning of actual construction works along that corridor. That effort will be followed by mobilization work and groundbreaking also for the common front of the construction work. All of this is led by the energetic but non-engineered and misplaced Minister of Public Works, whose work as a non-engineered and a misplaced person far surpasses what the engineer who held that position in the last 6 years was able to do. During the last 6 years, when the ministry was being led by an engineer, officials of government, including the head of state of the country, had to use articles to travel to the southeast, where his home county is. During that 6 years, when we had an engineer, those of you who live across the bridge, where you see the road now being constructed towards the Import Bridge, that road was a terrible, terrible area to use, all around Monrovia, central Monrovia, where almost all the roads were non-existent, they just been fixed. Those were the era of the engineers in charge. And now that the individual they are referring to as being misplaced and being a non-engineer is in charge, serious raw aggression work on road construction is taking place. So if misplacement is defined at such level of productivity, then I encourage the president to misplace people all over government so that the government can be built. You see, passing around with credential, which is something that a lot of people celebrate, is worth it, but it's not all that matters in today's world. People are more concerned about what you can do than the degree you pull your head passing around with. You can have a PhD in engineering. You have another young person, maybe BSc, in the same engineering. Probably giving both of them the chance to perform. And you'll be surprised that the poor BSc boy will do better than the PhD. So we are focused on substance of individuals who are brought to government, what they can deliver, and not the degree they carry. We can't be running around fighting degree battle because degrees also are not lacking in the current administration. There are people in this administration who were educated, went to some of the best schools around the world, Ivy League universities, but that's not what they come here with. What they come with is a desire to perform. And if you don't perform, it doesn't matter where you come from, what kind of degree you carry, what's the name of your Ivy League university, you care less about that. Performance is what matters because it is what will affect the lives of our people. When people can't have road to travel on, when they're in darkness, when hospitals can't function, when schools can't function, but yet the individuals within those career areas are all over the place with a big degree. It's not important. And maybe the one that concludes on this, when a president is elected, that president is being given a mandate. The president will determine who can help him to achieve what is being asked to do. So we hear former senior government officials saying, oh, next time we petition any president who comes here that he forced to appoint an engineer, then it means you so detached from the very piece of legal instrument, which is our Constitution, that determines the powers of the president. The president does not need a petition from you to decide who serves where. The only group of people who can cross-check what the president does when formulating the government is the House of Senate. Because in some cases, not in all cases, they have the role to do confirmation. They can disagree with the president and know I will not take this person, or they decide to do it. Beyond those people, it wouldn't require a petition from anywhere to tell the president, whether President Waka or another president, that when you are elected, you're forced to make an engineer minister of public works. If you're a minister there before you understand the structure, there is a particular position designed for engineer. And that's the deputy minister for technical services. Heads of public institutions are basically, and which is the most important, administrators. If I know all the things I'm supposed to do about communication, but I'm administratively inept, then I'm not well suited to be the Minister of Information. Because my first responsibility here is to manage people and administer the affairs of this institution, in addition to the fact that I am expected to communicate. I hope we've made ourselves clear on that issue. Another issue that has been in the news for a while, and I know a lot of people being concerned because of the security nature of it, and which the Ministry of Justice has finally spoken to. But again, as I said, most of our people listen, then read. So it's good to put the things in black and white, but it's also good for somebody to be able to say, what is it that is in black and white? So the Ministry of Justice says they have taken note of alarming reports, images, and public communications circulating on social media concerning the purported establishment and recruitment activities of a group identifying itself as the National Flag Security of Liberia. The ministry states unequivocally that no authorization, permit, registration, license, or operational approval has been granted by the government of Liberia for the creation, operation, recruitment, and deployment of any entity under the name National Flag Security of Liberia or any similar formation. Under the laws of Liberia, the establishment, organization, recruitment, and operation of any security body, paramilitary structure, auxiliary force, or organized enforcement entity requires prior authorization from the government to the Ministry of Justice, Division of Public Safety. Such processes include, but not limited to, formal application, vetting, institutional assessment, security review, and compliance with tax and regulatory obligations. No such process has been initiated, undertaken, or completed in relation to this group. Furthermore, the ministry has confirmed that the individuals or organizers associated with the entity have not obtained the requisite permits and have not undergone governmental assessment. Accordingly, the Ministry of Justice hereby orders the immediate cessation and the existence of all recruitment, organizational, operational, promotional, or mobilizational activity associated with the so-called National Flag Security of Liberia. Any continuation of such activities would be considered a direct violation of the laws of the Republic of Liberia and would attract the full weight of criminal and administrative sanctions. The government would not recognize, legitimize, or tolerate the formation of unauthorized security structures, particularly those organized along ethnic, tribal, communal, and sectarian lines. National security, law enforcement, and public order are constitutional responsibility of legally established state institutions. These responsibilities cannot and will not be delegated, assumed, or appropriated to private groups operating outside the framework of the law. The ministry emphasizes that Liberia is a state governed by law and that no individual or group, regardless of identity, affiliation, or claimed purpose, is permitted to establish parallel security structures and undertake recruitment activities. The ministry has instructed relevant security and regulatory agencies to investigate this matter immediately. Where violations are established, appropriate enforcement action will follow in strict accordance with Liberian law. The public is assured that the government remains fully committed to maintaining peace, security, and national unity. Citizens and residents are urged to refrain from engaging in or participating in any unauthorized security formations and to report any suspicious activities to the appropriate authorities. The Ministry of Justice will continue to monitor developments closely and will take further actions as necessary to uphold the rule of law. I know there's a lot of impatience when it comes to the fight against corruption. For people who elect government for different purposes, and those who thought that one of the reasons for electing the current administration to hold people who they believe which are the public cover accountable. Many of these people have expressed frustration on how slow it's been to hold people accountable. But the government has been consistent in saying, while we want to hold people accountable, it should always be done consistent with the rule of law. There can be no arbitrariness in trying to hold people accountable. When people are accused of wrongdoing, they will have to be charged, indicted, and then you allow the court process to take place. So it is in that line that the court system of recent formed 2 senior government officials linked with allegations guilty and have been sentenced for 5 years each. The presiding judge of criminal proceedings, Usman Fekai, handed down the sentence to Lawrence George and Dominic Pay, both former officials of the Liberia Institute for Statistics and Geoinformation Services. Judge Fekai upheld the jury's unanimous guilty verdict against the 2 men. The case was prosecuted by the Liberia Anti-Corruption Commission following a 2023 indictment. According to the LACC, approximately 1.795 million allotted for census-related activities between 2019 and 2022 could not be fully accounted for. In addition to the prison term, the court ordered Mr. George and Mr. Pay to restitute $97,000 representing outstanding balance of the disputed funds. A new agricultural mission officially gets underway to expand opportunities for farmers, strengthen rural infrastructure, and boost value addition across the country as the government of Liberia reaffirms strong partnership with the International Fund for Agricultural Development, IFAD. The mission will focus on expanding the tree crop Extension Project Phase 2, TCAP, and conducting the midterm review of the Building Climate Resilient Project, with priorities including the establishment of a national coffee seed garden for Liberia's prized Liberica coffee, expansion of feeder road development to improve market access, strengthening cocoa production and scaling up rice production inland with Liberia's food security goals. The IMF has announced extensive training and capacity building opportunities for staff of the Liberia Revenue Authority to strengthen domestic resource mobilization and fiscal governance. A new key Guinness lab was introduced by IMF Resident Representative Joel Chidu Owoki. The facility featured advanced econometric software, high-speed internet, and economic workstations for policy focus and technical learning. The focus of the training will include macroeconomics, fiscal and monetary policy, public finance management, financial sector policy, climate-related economic risks, inclusive growth, and digital transformation in revenue administration. The Ministry of Gender and Social Protection will today host a stakeholder coordination meeting with international development partners who are active in advancing gender equity, child protection, and social protection across Liberia. The purpose of the meeting is to strengthen coordination, collaboration, and alignment of partner-supported intervention with Liberia's national development priorities, establish a structured engagement framework to boost collective impact and accountability. The meeting reinforces the ministry as Liberia's lead government body for gender equity, for child welfare and social protection, emphasizing coherent government partner collaboration to achieve sustainable and inclusive development. As you may know, finally, which we want to talk about, the President is back in the country from the AU Summit, which was held under the theme Ensuring Sustainable Water Availability and Safe Sanitation System to achieve goals of Agenda 2063, which is the African Union's agenda. Discussion centered on strengthening sustainable development framework, improving public health system, and expanding water and sanitation infrastructure across the continent. While there, the President also called a high-level consolidated meeting on reforms in the UN. He urged African states to advance a unified position towards a more equitable and representative multilateral system, noting that the international body faces mounting pressure for protracted conflict, humanitarian crisis, and declining global confidence in international institutions. The President also took time off to have bilateral with Ethiopia Prime Minister, the President of Ghana, the President of South Africa, with the President of Kenya, and other senior EU officials. So we end here because we have other tests. We can present everything we have. So I will now take this time to invite the presidential envoy on climate. Then where the other carbon market? Oh, CEO. I think that one to look quite good. Get out, why you here for it? And CEO, the platform. One more can put it no, you here? You must have that to see what the police station. Oh, you want me to do it now? Will you start? Yeah. All right. So the government of Liberia takes note and is now aware that civil rights activist Reverend Jesse Louise Jackson has died. Born October 8, 1941, and he died February 17 today. He was an American civil rights activist, a politician, an ordained Baptist minister, a protege of Martin Luther King Jr. during the civil rights movement. He became one of the most prominent civil rights leaders of the late 20th and 21st centuries. From 1991 to 1997, he served as a shadow delegate and shadow senator for the District of Columbia. He was the father of U.S. Representative Hon. Jackson and former U.S. Representative Jesse Jackson Jr. The government expresses condolences to his family and prays that his soul rest in peace. Thank you.
Minister Piah, Deputy and Assistant Ministers of Information, Deputy Director General of the Liberia Standards Authority, members of the MICAT Press Corps, members of my team from the Carbon Markets Authority, here present, ladies and gentlemen. It looks like February is the month where I will come to MICAT to address. My last appearance was here was in February 2023. And I note that the room, although the name hasn't changed, has changed. I want you to know, Minister, that we've named this hall in the evergreen memory of my uncle, Charles Chacha Piah. I want to thank you on behalf of the family for refurbishing this press hall and in this building and for the honor that you have done to Uncle Chacha. Thank you. So I'm here to talk about the Carbon Markets Authority. We all know that Liberia holds a position of global ecological significance. We contain more than 43% of the remaining Upper Guinea rainforest, which is a critical biodiversity hotspot and a massive land carbon sink. As the most forested nation in West Africa, almost 70% of our land surface is covered by dense tropical forests. Our management as a nation and people of these resources is central to international climate mitigation strategies. Our forests and wetlands are home to endangered species and many species that are only found here, endemic to Liberia. We all know about the pygmy hippopotamus, the western chimpanzee, red colobus monkey, so many migratory birds, sea turtles, crocodiles, all of those find their homes here in Liberia. Carbon markets represent Liberia's next frontier for sustainable growth, and they offer a mechanism for us to monetize the huge forest and natural capital assets, to monetize our work in biodiversity conservation, and to monetize our work in managing our ocean resources. The primary importance of carbon for Liberia lies in the fact that we are a carbon sink. that carbon lies in our forests, our wetlands, our waterways, and our biodiversity. But while we know that we have this outstanding natural resource base, there are many aspects, if not most aspects, of carbon trading and carbon project development remain unfamiliar to us here in Liberia, and as such, they remain untapped. And because of this, His Excellency President Joseph Emmanuel established the Carbon Markets Authority under Presidential Executive Order number 155 of October 2025 that will later transition into an act of the legislature to establish the Carbon Markets Authority and Liberia's Sovereign Carbon Wealth Fund Act of 2026. Minister Piah just highlighted the President's role as our top elected official to make decisions for the betterment of the country. The Carbon Markets Authority is one such decision that he has made for Liberia to finally start to benefit from our natural capital and the endowment, some will say God-given endowment, but it is ours, and we have kept it so far. It's serving a global purpose, and it is time that we also see those benefits. So the CMA, Carbon Markets Authority, is the government of Liberia's landmark step towards advancing Liberia's participation in global financial markets and the carbon trade through a three-pronged strategy. So first, the CMA serves as the lead national entity for all matters related to carbon market development. Second, the CMA hosts the Blue Economy Secretariat, which represents a transformative approach to the sustainable management and development of Liberia's vast ocean and coastal and water resources. Third, the CMA is designed as a special purpose climate finance vehicle and special revenue fund capable of mobilizing, managing, and leveraging carbon market revenues as bankable assets for the country. It is further structured to become Liberia's first sub-sovereign entity to obtain a credit rating, thereby positioning the country to access international capital markets through climate-aligned financial instruments. All of this, much of this, or even some of this, may be unfamiliar language to us. If you're fishing, you're in water, you don't notice the water. But we have all these assets, and the President says it's high time that Liberia takes its place in the global financial markets, using our natural capital and the carbon endowment that we have. So our specific roles include overseeing policy formulation, market participation, and compliance with international frameworks such as the Paris Agreement on climate change. It's in planning Liberia's active role in global carbon trade and emission reduction initiatives by leveraging our enriched natural resources, forests and coastlines, and our renewable energy potential to generate sustainable economic growth and strengthen community resilience. So, by establishing the CMA, the President is guiding Liberia to institutionalize sovereign control over these assets, while ensuring that we have transparent registry systems that will prevent double counting, that we will have clear benefit sharing mechanisms with communities and private landowners, that we will have annual independent audits and public disclosure, and that we will align all of these with national debt management laws. We'll establish a Liberian sovereign carbon wealth fund, which will mirror international sovereign wealth fund best practices. It will be our first sovereign wealth fund as a country. And it will mirror international best practices by preserving capital, limiting unsustainable withdrawals, investing for long-term natural benefits, and, long-term national benefits, and this is very important for the President and for all of us, protecting the economic interests of Liberia's future generations. So not just for today, but for the long term. So the CMA is not merely an environmental coordination body, it's an innovative way for Liberia to ensure fiscal transparency, intergenerational equity, and sovereign control over our natural assets to advance our work in preserving our ecosystems. So how does the CMA operate? The minister joking me on the ambassador business. The CMA is a public corporation framework. It currently operates under the office of the President at the Executive Mansion with a steering committee that's there, that's overseeing our activities. And we coordinate with other ministries and agencies of government, including all of the ones that you will know: Ministry of Finance and Development Planning, Ministry of Agriculture, the EPA, the FDA, Maritime Authority, NAFA, the National Fisheries and Aquaculture Authority, Liberia Land Authority, Liberia Aviation Authority, among others. And we are leading and coordinating a whole of government approach to monetizing Liberia's natural capital assets. The establishment of a sovereign capital wealth fund under the CMA will allow us to define fiscal rules, protect revenue from short-term political or budgetary pressures, and segregate accounts for our carbon market proceeds to be directed towards adaptation, resilience, and sustainable development. This ring fencing of the sovereign carbon wealth fund is essential if we want to transform carbon flows into predictable, financeable revenue streams suitable for capital market instruments such as blue, green bonds, and other sovereign wealth funds. So our planned activities for the first year of implementation: first is institutional establishment and governance, of course. Second is to work on the legal and regulatory framework development, because much of this is new to us, but also much of this transcends multiple ministries, agencies, and entities. And so we have to package it all together. Thirdly, we need to develop systems for measurement, reporting, and verification, what we call MRV. And we want to deploy a national carbon registry that will have a dashboard with live, real-time updates. We need to assess our national carbon since we know we have it, but we need to assess it to international standards so that it is documented. This is what we have from this place to this place. This is what we have. And this is how much carbon we are storing for the global good. We're developing a carbon projects pipeline. We're doing stakeholder engagement, and we will do more on capacity building. We're establishing international partnerships to help us get ahead, because this is a new frontier for Liberia, for much of Africa, and even for some parts of the world. the rules change, they're being set, modified, reset, and we want to be part of that decision making and setting of the rules because we have the assets. And if the rules are made elsewhere about the assets that we hold, we will be or could be losers. And we ultimately, this year, would like to set up a carbon market exchange, which would be the first environmental exchange, national environmental exchange in West Africa. Lagos State in Nigeria has one, recently established about 2 or 3 months ago, but there is no national carbon markets exchange. We want to be the first. So our work heretofore, since October, has focused on setting up the CMA, our basic management structure. We're very small. Because we were mandated towards the end of the year, almost at the end of the budget year, not almost, just about there. The resources to do this are still being gathered. We've had multiple stakeholder consultations and engagement. We consulted with retired public servants in the diplomatic and fiscal management space to get their opinions on the direction that we should take with this new asset. We've consulted with members of the diplomatic community, notably the EU, with Sweden and France, with the offices, of course, of the President and the Vice President, as well as with government agencies, international NGOs, with civil society organizations, National Rubber Brokers and Farmers Union of Liberia, with international organizations like the African Union's International Bureau for Animal Resources, and other blue economy stakeholders. We will continue our consultation and engagement process and further ensure coordination among key relevant government of Liberia actors under a one-government approach. Legal and regulatory framework development. We developed a draft legislation for the establishment of the CMA, and we are leading the reactivation of the Carbon Technical Committee that operates under the National Climate Change Steering Committee, and that will henceforth oversee the finalization of the draft carbon markets legislation that was worked on extensively last year. We want to make sure that other sectors of the economy are included, including the private sector, our pension funds, our banking sector, our insurance funds, who are the investors in carbon markets and carbon projects, Chamber of Commerce, LIBA, Liberia Business Association, and so forth. On resource mobilization, we formally engaged the international firm Orient Strategies to raise money from international, bilateral, and philanthropic organizations, from development finance, private sector, and climate-aligned funding sources. We are developing a national project pipeline that includes rubber projects, rubber tree planting, waste management projects, and our consultant partners have developed investment prospectus for Marshall Wetlands, for the Lake Piso Multi-Use Reserve Area, and are working now on the Wologisi forest area that was recently in the news with Forestry Development Authority and Fauna and Flora Organization for its conservation. And more. There are so many, I can't name them all. Technical advisory services, we've developed and signed contracts for strategic and technical services with several national and international partners, while discussions are ongoing with others. So Guardian Knot strategies are mentioned to support institutional strengthening, systems design, financial frameworks, and the governance model development. With next year for the development and implementation of our first methane plus mitigation policy, and for renewable energy certificates, and for establishing the Liberia Climate Catalytic Fund, with Big Piso Solutions to support website development and for strategic advisory on national MRE systems, Path 9 consultants for the carbonization of key national assets, Prime Vantage for establishing digital platforms and managing our digital assets, also serving as technical advisors, the Nature Compact to collaborate on a project to restore and manage the Sesto-Senquen coastal wetlands in Riverside County. We're in discussion with several others, and we look forward to a robust year that will see Liberia entering the global stage for carbon and financial market transactions. Thank you very much.
Honorable Minister Piah, the Ambassador and Presidential Envoy, Hon.Koakun, Deputy Minister, Assistant Minister, the Folk Estate, ladies and gentlemen. I firstly want to extend my thanks and appreciation to the Honorable Minister for the forwarding me and the Liberia Standard Authority at the stage today. The Liberia Standard Authority, formerly National Standard Act, which was enacted into law in 2022 and operationalized 2024, will on this Thursday be officially launched by His Excellency, the President Joseph Emmanuel. And the launch of the Liberia Standard Authority has been a whole week of activities that began on last Thursday. On last Thursday, there were a media opening and activation day for which all of the media institutions were invited. And there were a joint press release from both the Liberia Standard Authority, UNIDO, who has been one of our key funders, the EU, and within that press release, it was an opportunity also to launch our quality mark, the certification mark, and our new logo. So following that, Thursday was a Friday. Friday was a day we call the private sector day. In the private sector day, we had the producers, the exporters, consumers, SMEs, the SMEs and the MSMEs were all there. So the thing we had there is, how can our service help you? Because Liberia Standard Authority, which has the authority for developing, maintaining, and promoting standards in Liberia, both for consumers protection, trade facilitation, and agricultural development. So we help producers, we help exporters and whatever, because if you want to export from out of this country as a farmer or whatever, the standard based on standard, there are standards out there that your produce should meet up with. So as a standard authority, we guide people on what are the different management procedures that you have to follow. And basically we had different tables for the different services we have, for the standard services, for the metrology, which is basically the science of measurement. We also had basically for our testing, our certification, and all of that. So amongst all of these people, they were coming asking us, what are their challenges in the different businesses, what are challenges, and how the Liberia Standard Authority could help them. It was a very engaged day. On Friday, we had it for the entire Friday. And there are other feedbacks. I think most of you here were there on Friday. That did not end there. Monday, we had another day we call the Science Day, which was for the regulators and the academia. There is many times, if you went to a business there, if EPA went there, standard good, everybody concerned. What is your responsibility? And what is your responsibility? So as a government, we want to have a one government to be able to coordinate very well. So the first thing is, as a standard authority, an institution that has come to give service, even those services are given both to the private sector and government institutions, to enhance your enforcement, to enhance your regulatory function. So we sat down with NAFA, all the different regulators, and say, look, this is our function, this is what our act tells us. How can we collaborate? We don't want duplication. How can we collaborate? So we had a whole dialogue discussions, and the discussion, some of it has initiated an MOU to see, okay, how we're going to collaborate. And standard authority also being an institution which is scientifically based, because we're starting now to grant. We have not gone in all parts of Liberia. We will need a professional, we will do whatever it is. So we're working with academia to tap in the good science students that are there doing an internship and whatever to see how we can strategically recruit. So those discussions were held on the MOU and was very fine. Today, before I came here, we are having development partners and donors all at the standard laboratory. So this day is for donors and development partners. Today, we were able to launch our strategic plan, meaning our next plan for the next 5 years, along with the business plan and sustainability plan. So prior to coming, that's one reason why my Director General could not come here today. So we are having engagement with the different donors. This is our plan, this is our sustainability plan for the next 5 years. Standard authority is the hope for Liberians, because every one of us, what we eat, what we consume, what we sell, it has to meet our standard, and not just standard, but good standard. And how is that done is basically, yes, we are a government institution, but we also believe that the donor can see to enhance our ability to be able to meet up with what standards we have. So we're having the discussion today, and I left my entire team there, that's why I'm here alone. And tomorrow we'll be having a parade. We'll be having a parade tomorrow, which is like a national awareness. We really don't want to keep our awareness within our facility. We've taken it out. So beginning tomorrow by 9 o'clock, we will have our team parading. They will be parading along the UN Drive through Central Monrovia Broad Street and hitting for Red Light and to do our live tomorrow doing an awareness. Basically, on that awareness, you will have the PA, you will have other people with the different brochures. We have meeting the different consumers, meeting the petty traders and whatever to say that, okay, now we have the Liberia Standard Authority here. And basically, we are here. So the Standard Authority now, which was formerly the National Standard Lab, now has been funded by the Liberia Food Safety Project, being implemented by UNIDO and funded by the EU. So basically, the entire facility that was used initially by the Liberia Standard Lab has been refurbished. So the 7 million from the Food Safety Project, EU was able to allocate 300,000 of that money to the refurbishing of the Liberia Standard Lab. So that refurbishing of the Liberia Standard Lab did not only include that, there is a full electricity basically from the KVA generator cutting, and not only that, they have had a full installation of a solar dish electricity inland also with the LEC we have. So at the Liberia Standard Lab, you have a full electricity. Not only that, we have a deep borehole that has been dug there, so water issues are not issue any longer. Then the 5 different labs we've had have been refurbished. So we have under testing, we basically have the full chemistry lab that have been fully refurbished. I think those of you that have been with us the last 2 days, you have been able to tour those basic things, and we expect by Thursday, the president will tour those basic things. Not only the food chemistry lab, we have the microbiology lab, and in the metrology, we have 3 different labs under metrology, which is basically, like I said initially, is the science of measurement. And then we have the temperature lab. Apart from the temperature lab, we have the volume lab, and we also have the mass lab. All of those different labs have been refurbished. And within the food safety program as supported us, it's not only the lab, it's not only the facility, the electricity, the water, that has extended to capacity building as well. So over the last couple of months, the Liberia Standard Authority staff have usually gone to the Ghana Standard Authority. We have had 23 staff that have been going because basically in our strategic plan, we are focused on using last year and this year to focus on branding to get the basic capacity that entails us to be able to serve the nation, serve the private sector, and basically. So on Thursday, that the president will be having the presidential launch and dedication of Lisa represent is not just a ceremonial event. But what it represents a signal to the commitment that Liberia is strengthening its national quality infrastructure, aligning with regional systems such as the Economic Community of West Africa states, enhancing trade competitiveness, protecting consumers, and also supporting the development agenda. This launch marks the transition from a fragmented quality oversight to a coordinated national quality system. The national development cannot occur without quality assurance. The Liberia Standard Authority exists to ensure the food we eat is safe, the building we occupy are secure, the fuel we buy is accurately dispensed, the product we consume meet defined standards. Quality must become Liberia's culture. Through a strengthened national quality infrastructure, we are building a safer, fairer, and more competitive Liberia. And on the launch, you going to have the EU, UNIDO is there now. We already have the regional coordinator for UNIDO in country to represent that. The EU is here as well. In country, we have the World Food Program, we also have the WFP, and apart from that, from the government and the board chairman, who is also the council chairman of the Liberia Standard Authority, Honorable Dagosa, including the Minister of Information, Minister of Finance, and all dignitaries of government will be there on Friday for the president to officially launch now the Liberia Standard Authority, introducing the Standard Authority to Liberia as a whole. Thank you so much.
The presentation from the Deputy Director General of the Liberia Standard Authority, we will now provide members of the press an opportunity to interact with our distinguished speakers. So we'll take a couple of questions. Given how long the line is, we'll determine where to stop. Those time is of essence here. So please state your name, your emphasis, and your question.
Thank you, Minister. My name is Emmanuel, and I will put for inside Liberia. So my question firstly goes to the Carbon Marketing Authority. So your plans for the institution are all good, and we hope that you will succeed. But I think the original intent for the establishment of that institution by the president is a form generation. But you mentioned out of the plan, since you took over, you didn't mention what the government has achieved in terms of finance. Are you here to tell the public about that? lastly, to the Standard Authority, thank you so much. But Liberians are still thinking about the issue of the frozen food, and you have that. I don't know if you want to talk about it, whether you are already giving those people who selling frozen food that their products are okay, they can sell to the Liberian people. Thank you.
Good afternoon, my name is Nat and I report for Star TV. My question goes to CNA. I want to ask how prepared and equipped are the CNA in order to organize the national climate exchange within Liberia?
Do you get a question? Got a question?
Yeah.
Thank you for the time. My name is Alison Smoke and I report for Today Liberia Television. My question goes directly to the Liberia Standard Authority. I just want to know, how will Liberia Standard Authority address challenges in ensuring compliance with national standards, particularly in the context of imported goods, and what measures are put in place to protect consumers? Thank you.
Okay, my name is Atopi Wisa, and thanks for giving me the opportunity. I report for the Homeland Online TV. My question goes to the Minister. Minister, thanks for the presentation. You were so more clear to clarify things. My question has to do with the level of repairs on street lights along the Japanese freeway. I must say thanks to the government for carrying on that initiative, but there are other lights that are yet to come on. And my question here, what is the problem and what is it?
My name is George Momo, and I work for the Liberia News Agency. So my question goes to the CNA. The reason for establishment, the intent, plans, the outputs, it's clear that it's new to Liberia. So my concern has to do, how do you intend, or what is on your plate in terms of partnering with the media to get your work done across Liberia?
Thank you. My name is Darius Kanga, and I'm from Piah. Question to Emmanuel. First, I look at the issue of the national strategy.
One question for us.
They wanted to know is okay. Yes, first, I look at the issue of national strategies and policy direction of climate change. How is Liberia aligning its climate strategy with the goals of the United Nations framework on climate change? And second to that, what is the biggest obstacle faced with Liberia in addressing climate change? Thank you.
My name is Joseph Sadi, and I report from Montana TV to the Standard Authority. Thank you so much. I was part of the team of journalists who run the tour for the entire facility. But I have a few questions here. I want to know, with the strength of your workforce, will there be people, or would there be rotation in testing some of these schools, or will you have people coming from outside the country helping you to assist you in this function? And due to that, would there be fees that will be attached to maybe somebody coming from outside and they want to maybe give a test on their products? And to Madam Koakun, what all you have said here, are there plans in getting jingles? Because my grandma is old Lofa County, may not understand your language, the jargons that you are saying here.
So my name is James M. Piah, and I report for the Report African County. My first question goes to Lisa Cross. Chief, what specific initiative is Lisa implementing to support local industries and promote made in Liberia products? And how will these efforts impact the country economic and the protections of economic stability, and especially the alcohol beverages produced in Liberia, allegedly that is damaging the labor of the consumers in Liberia? The next questions go to the CNA boss. How will CNA ensure that carbon market products prioritizes the needs and rights of local communities, and what mechanisms are put in place for community engagement and grievance redress for our local communities? And finally, to our Minister Piah, Chief, I want to have a little bit clarity regarding to those who be convicted of the corruption charges, others in the same time. He said that they are going to spend the 5 years in prison, followed by the restitutions of the funding, so we won't have clarity production. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Desmond and I report for Democracy Watch newspaper. My first concern goes to CAM. Thanks, Honorable CEO, for your presentation. Assuming over a meeting that CAM is financially challenged, what is that extra challenges that are associated with CAM, and how does CAM, the carbon market?
CMA.
CMA, okay, sorry.
I thought you were.
So, yeah, I was trying to get it angry for that. But I was trying to get it angry for that. So, it's CMA.
Yes,
Thank
CMA.
Thank you. So, assuming over a meeting that CMA is challenged financially, are there different challenges associated with CMA, and how does CMA intend to attract its potential for jobs opportunities for Liberians? And to our folks from the Standard Authority, moreover, is not Liberia. I agree that the president very soon will be officially the commissioner of the institution. Are there particular plans in terms of decentralization so that the services can also be effective in other counties across the country? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the questions. The first one, I will go in order of the questions received, and forgive me if I missed the name of your institution. You can just correct me. So Inside Liberia asks, what has the government achieved in terms of the original plan for generating funds in the past 100 days of the CMA's existence? I think I highlighted that the first year we were focusing first and foremost on institutional setup, and so the generation of funds comes towards the end of that when you have a national carbon registry in place, when you have a carbon market exchange in place, and you can start to register projects. That is to say, people who are actively participating. There are some who are doing so now without any reference to government or national authorities. There are participants, people who are participating in global carbon markets, benefiting from the carbon that we are storing here in Liberia, but we don't have a platform for them to register it, for it to report any revenues. So our first order of business is to establish those platforms. We have planned strategy to have that installed by the second quarter of this year, at least temporary platform where we can then learn the lessons that we need to learn on how this should be ultimately established and legislated. From Star TV, you asked how prepared is the CMA to organize the National Climate Exchange and the Climate Market Exchange. Well, first thing is to recognize that this is an instrument that we in Liberia want. We have all of the laws in place in different parts of the country, different parts of our legislation. What do we take from Public Financial Management Law, from the Land Rights Act, from the Community Rights Act, from the Forest Act? How do we put that together so that we can come up with a framework? And that framework will guide us in setting up. It will be our first. We don't have a stock exchange here. Many countries in Africa do, but more countries in Africa do not have a stock exchange. We do not have a commodities exchange here. Many countries in Africa do, but many countries do not. In the West, these things are common. You can have them at national level, you have them at sub-national level, at regional level, etc., etc. So this is new territory. How prepared are we? Well, the former president said, dream big. If your dreams don't scare you, don't go there. Lena asked, what is on our plate in terms of partnering? The person from Lena? Yeah, please.
With the media.
Oh, with the media. Okay, yes, that's a part. I did it right. We are trying to develop a media and a communications strategy. Not trying to develop, we have one, but we have been constrained a little bit in terms of all of the many parts of the moving vehicle that we're trying to establish. So this is our first media engagement, and okay, I will not talk about it. This is our first media engagement. We plan to have many more and to much more robustly engage not only with the local media but also the international media, because what we're setting up is not something that's only around us, but it also involves how we engage internationally. Darius from OKFM asked about do the national strategies for climate alignment align with the UNFCCC and to take forward the climate change strategy. Darius?
Darius?
OKFM?
Yes.
Yeah, what was your question exactly? About alignment?
Yes, of course.
Okay. Liberia is a signatory to the Paris Agreement of 2015, and we have always aligned with the UNFCCC in terms of our climate strategies. What we have not done is engage robustly with Article 6 of the Paris Agreement, which provides for entry into compliance markets, voluntary carbon markets, and non-market mechanisms. We have not really done much of that. A little bit, we have the Red Plus project, and we have other projects usually run by the FDA, the EPA. The minister mentioned one from the Ministry of Agriculture that was designed and started when I was minister, the BCRP, Building Climate Resilience Project, with the Adaptation Fund. That's a grant from the Adaptation Fund. So we've engaged with grants, we've engaged with development partners, but we have not come out with our own engagement as a nation with the international markets that are provided for under Article 6. Happy to speak with you later on the details. Joseph wants for his grandma to understand climate change. What's Joseph? Joseph? Yeah, which entity?
Lata TV.
Lata?
Yeah.
Lata TV.
That's why I'm going to Zolo.
Sorry?
I said I'm going to come to Zolo.
Zolo, okay, all right, good. So, can you help us to, can you?
Yeah, but I'm not being on a proposal again.
No. I'm not asking you to help us because if you understand climate change, you are better than 99.9% of us here in Liberia. Even when I hear talking, a lot of the things that I have to say are technical and everything myself learning. So to understand climate change is simple. Well, we will get the jingles going and put it on the different radios in the different languages. But that's for climate change. When it comes to carbon, that's even more technical and more, because carbon, you can't see it, you can't touch it, you can't feel it. And it's not the carbon that we are working with, it's the carbon credits, which is a value that's put on the carbon and we measure it by the tons, etc., etc. We don't even have those systems in place. So to go and explain carbon to your grandmother in the faculty, you will have to help us. So we understand, and nothing is free in life. And even if it were free, it would be expensive. So there was a question on how will CMA ensure that carbon projects prioritize the needs of local communities. CMA is not here to revisit work that has already been done by the government. It's to enhance, it's to bring it all together. So a lot of work has been done with local communities, is ongoing with local communities, including from FDA, EPA, Land Authority, everybody. We all sit down and we all sat and looked at what would a carbon trading policy look like from the Liberia standpoint. What the CMA is going to do is take all of that work, sit down with everybody, and then add in more people who have other ideas on how we can engage in the international level with the work for the local communities. But it's not just local communities, it's also private sector owners, it's also government assets. How do we package it best so that everybody can benefit? And we have the frameworks, we've discussed these things at length. Many stakeholder engagements have happened over the years. Last year there were a lot, there were county engagements, there were national level engagements. What we're saying is that we want to extend that to other parts of the community, the private sector in particular, the banking sector, because you're talking about markets, you're talking about finance, you're talking about the people who will invest. The biggest investors in carbon trading are pension funds in Europe and the US, in the West. We have a pension fund here which is NASCOP. NASCOP has not been engaged in setting these policies. We have insurance companies here who invest the money that they get. That's how insurance works. We have banks who are looking to invest their non-liquid capital. We want to be sure that all of them are consulted. They can say, if you do it this way, you will box us out. If you do it this way, then we can participate. So that consultation has to be inclusive and go beyond just what the community says, but look at all of the players in the system. And the last one is from Democracy Watch. How will the Carbon Markets Authority grow jobs for Liberia? The whole government is involved in growing jobs for Liberians. The carbon market is just one tiny fraction of the government of Liberia, and we are working to bring as a revenue generating fund that is being set up that will then channel that revenue into government projects, development projects, adaptation projects that will then provide the jobs. So I think that's the questions that I had. Any further questions? We can discuss otherwise. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The first question here is around frozen food. Sorry, I didn't know who gave that question. But please allow me to answer the second question and I will cover the first one. So the second question from OKFN talks about compliance with national standards, especially imported goods. What mechanism is being put in place by the Liberia Standard Authority? So the first thing I want you to know is the Liberia Standard Authority is the institution that makes sure that the things we buy, we sell, we deal with, we eat, drink, and export are safe and correct, of good quality. We are here to protect Liberia from all bad products. We help businesses to improve their quality, and we make sure measurements are very fair. And we go to the pump, you see, buying 1 gallon of gasoline, it is the 1 gallon of gasoline. Because we want fairness in trade. But the first thing we have to know that standard is a rule that says how good, how safe something must be. So that one has to be set up first. Our compliance to national standards. The first thing we've done right after here is already at the desk of the Council of Lisa, the Commerce Minister, with the entire process of developing a standard from the ISO perspective, which is the International Standard Organization. We're not going through that. When you come there, we'll do that. We've already established 126 Liberian standards. 216. So in order for those standards to be standard, they are in food, agricultural products, they are also in electrical products, and basically. But in order for those standards to be standards, it has to be gazetted. And to be gazetted is the board or the council that has to have that approved. So when those standards are set, it is in our responsibility that this is, because right now what's happening is, yes, we're saying that the standard authority is a scientific institution. We don't want to be anybody to say we got substandard product in the market. No. We set standard based on what international in the context of what Liberia is, where we have all the experts on that. The initial one that has been established, like I said, is 216 standards. And those standards will be gazetted right after the launch. The board chairperson has confirmed that to us. So we will make sure that the Liberian standards live at that. Part of, like I said, part of our activities this week has been the different setup. Like Friday, Monday, when we had the engagement with regulators. The regulator, like our mother institution, Ministry of Commerce. Ministry of Commerce gives IPD. Things are imported in this country. So if things are imported in the country, we have the Standard Authority, which is a semi-autonomous institution under the Ministry of Commerce. The reference to RPD being given should be based on standard, on quality. So these are discussions we're having so that if anything that comes in country is based on that, we've already finished setting a national standard. It's in our responsibility to do that as a standard authority. So all of that is in place. Like we said, it was a national standard lab, but now it's an authority with external responsibility. The second question came from, that was the first and second. The third question came from Joseph. He said the strength of standard, the Liberia Standard Authority, how will you rotate your staff to meet up with the huge demand and whether what we're doing has fees? Of course, all of the services that Standards Authority gives by requirements. We've been working with the donors, we've been working with different institutions, and our fees are not restrained for the SMEs and the MSME. Because if you see that these are people we want to support at a huge extent to see that what we produce meet up with our own consumptions and for the after the free African trade process, we're to be able to be exported out. So our fees on our fees are very much flexible with the SMEs and other people. In terms of our strength, standard authority level, we've said initially, and even in our strategic plan that has been launched today, we are using this year, last year, this year, where the strategic plan runs from 2005 to 2029. So we are grounding first. And we ground is basically getting all the capacity of the lab to be able to function to our core within the art, which we're doing it. And initially, including the press conference, I told you we have had like 23 of our staff have been going Ghana for training coming over the last couple of months, for the last 3 months of that. Yeah. So our services now, we got people that are offering the service because we really don't want to take, we got a huge tax. We don't want to go all over. We want to take space by space within the confines of what our capacity, what our capacity can get on now. So strategically is spell out in our strategic plan and basically all that. Local industry support. Someone asked on the local industry, what is the user support in alcohol? Hello? Did I get it right? So I already put that question right. Local industry support from this side. Then there's capture alcohol into that.
Yeah.
Can I get that question again?
The question is, what specific initiative is LISA implementing to support local industries and promote made in Liberia products? How will these efforts impact the country's economic and the protections of consumers' safety, especially the alcohol in this country that is allegedly damaging legal?
Thank you so much. So initially when we talk with the essence of the Liberia Standard Authority, the first thing is consumer safety, then trade facilitation and agricultural development. We said that. So all of our services is geared towards consumer. And if you heard me read just now, I said we are here to tell you that what you eat, what you wear, where we live, all is basically kind of very shade with that. So donors, partners today, like with the WFP, the first technical MOU I sat in when I was appointed, that I sat on was WFP has been bringing food, the food feeding food around to food school where you got different food and all the stuff. So our concern has been, okay, WFP bring this food here, whether beans or rice. The library student eat that. He goes home. He's not eating that same food. Most of the foods are exported from, okay, basically he uses basic food. So how can we collaborate? There's a collaboration between us that's going to help the local farmers basically on that. So lastly, someone talked about how do we expand to the rural area. It's on our strategic plan. So we are grounding now by 2027, we want to expand in the different countries after we have started performing equitably within the confines of what will happen all of the sites spending by 2027. Thank you.
Thank you.
Every corridor, the street lights have been planted in. Those lights are meant to cover the entire corridor. So if you are making observation, that is for the person who asked that question about the freeway, if you still see some gaps, but just know that the gaps will be filled, because the goal is to have all of the corridors properly lighted. The court ruling was clear. If you go to jail, you pay some money. Whether you pay the money when you go to jail or you pay the money after you come from jail, I don't know. But in the end, we'll do both. Maybe we can go ask the judge which one comes first. Jail first or the manifest in the day for as a ruling lady explained that they just established the fact that they have to do that restitution in addition to the sentencing. Let me just add, since we still got small time before we close, that the Central Bank of Liberia and the Bank of Ghana signed a memorandum of understanding to deepen collaboration across the West African region. It aims to strengthen institutional collaboration and technical capacity, to enhance financial sector resilience, to facilitate information sharing and capacity development. The relationship framed as strategic and timely amid increasing complexities in global and regional financial systems. Key provisions of that MOU: 3-year agreement with 2-year non-binding extension option. They will have structured staff exchanges to build institutional capacity. The focus areas will include banking, supervision, monetary policy, analysis, financial stability, cyber security, payment systems, digital currency management, and AI in central banking. Opportunities for targeted training, technical attachment, joint research, and peer-to-peer knowledge sharing. In terms of implementation, it's effective immediately. But there will be a phased rollout of staff exchanges, technical programs over the agreement's duration. The MOU aims to improve policy formulation, regulation, and financial stability in Liberia, and also to strengthen regional capacity and collaboration between key central banks, the potential benefits for Ghana and the broader West African region. I want to thank you all for today's press conference. Thank our guests for the festival you can Thank you.
Just before you shut down your cameras, I want to announce that we will be convening a meeting with PR officers from across the government tomorrow here at the Ministry of Information. So we just want to give the meeting to send out the announcement to everybody concerned. Thank you.
So, guys, it's about this briefing here at the Ministry of Information. So, today MI briefing was joined by Hon.Jerolinmek, Minister of Information, Ambassador Envoy, President Special Envoy on Climate Change, our Chief Executive Officer of the Carbon Market Authority of Liberia, and Hon.Koakun Emmanuel. He's the Secretary General for Technical Services of Liberia State Authority. So once again, region is thirsty for a realization of environment until then by from
I'm ready. Envoy to start calling you Camel.